Hi, I'm Beth, creator of dryitcanit.com. Today I want to talk about dehydrating frozen vegetables. When I first got my dehydrator, I was so excited and I had to dehydrate something right away. And I thought, what am I going to do with this? And I ran down to the freezer and I found a frozen package of peas and carrots. I brought those up, I put them in the dehydrator, I waited for them to get dehydrated, and I was so proud of having a jar of dehydrated vegetables. My daughter at the time asked me, why are you reprocessing food that's already been processed? Well, my immediate answer at that time was because I wanted to try out the dehydrator. But since then, I've actually learned a couple of tricks. And using frozen vegetables is really a nice thing to do with the dehydrator for a couple of reasons. Number one, it frees up freezer space. Secondly, you have vegetables that can be put together in recipes that quickly add water and you have food. So in other words, my Tex-Mex recipe, for example, I have a video on that. You can put a number of dried ingredients together, add water, you have soup or you have a meal or whatever. I mean, I dehydrate rice, I dehydrate noodles, all of those kinds of things make for a more instant meal. This week I dehydrated some corn and some green beans, and I find that dehydrating from frozen works really well for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't really care much for the blanching step. It's an extra step, it wastes water, it wastes electricity, and it creates a lot of steam in the summertime when it's warm outside. When you have frozen vegetables, they've already been blanched, so you get beautiful coloring. So for example, I have these green beans that I dehydrated from frozen this week that we didn't finish the package. And I have corn here. Now this was 8 cups of frozen corn and it dehydrates down to about 2 cups. And oftentimes your vegetables will dehydrate to a ratio of from 4 to 1. So in other words, 8 cups made 2 cups. This looks to be about probably 2 cups, so there was probably about 8 cups of green beans to start out with also. It works out really well using frozen vegetables also because they're available year-round. We don't have fresh produce or fresh corn or even fresh green beans year-round. Yes, I can buy them in the store off-season, but they're expensive. And oftentimes the frozen vegetables are actually cheaper and they're just as nutritious. And I prefer frozen to canned, but dehydrating them makes a lot of sense. So how do you do this? It's really simple. You take your dehydrator and you're going to have a tray. You're going to notice that things like corn are going to get really, really small. I'll just show you, for example. So you aren't going to be able to use a regular tray, but you're going to have, your dehydrator will come with some kind of a screened vent, and you simply take your frozen vegetable, whatever it is, and spread it out on that screen until it's a single layer. So if you need a couple of trays, use a couple of trays. If you want to dehydrate 2 or 3 things at a time, dehydrate 2 or 3 things at a time. I've been asked, can I dehydrate onions with other vegetables? Absolutely. The onions really are not going to interfere with that. And dehydrating frozen onions, lots of people do it. It's so convenient to have onions available and ready to go. They don't go to waste that way, you know, with the fresh ones, how they'll sprout over time. And again, it's super convenient for putting together meals. But basically, just take your frozen vegetables, spread them on a tray so that they're on a single level. In other words, they're not stacked at all. Spread them out, put them in the dehydrator at 125 degrees until they're dry. So when are they dry? For vegetables, they're going to be dry when they're crispy. So for these green beans, for example, you could hear that crispy. You could hear that I could break that apart easily. For corn, same thing. It's going to be really, really crispy. You aren't going to be able to hear me break one, but well, it's kind of like a Rice Krispie. I guess if I can take one, maybe you'll hear this. I don't know if you heard that or not, but it's really crispy. And you could actually eat either one of these dry if you wanted to. The corn very much tastes like corn, and the green bean tastes like green bean. But they're really handy. Once they're dehydrated and they're crisp, and when you think they're done, which is going to be anywhere from 8 to 12 to even 15 hours if it's a humid day, you're going to put those on your counter and you're going to let them get to room temperature, which generally takes 10 or 15 minutes. That's really important to do because When you take things out of the dehydrator, they're going to be warm, and so they're going to feel soft. That doesn't mean that they aren't crispy. So let them sit on your counter and cool. Then test them for doneness. If they bend, or in the case of the green bean, if it still bends or if it feels wet, put it back in the dehydrator. Same with the corn. If it's not crispy, put it back in the dehydrator. When you're done with that, you're going to put them in jars or moisture-proof containers, and you're going to leave them there for 4 to 7 days. That's called conditioning. And what you're looking for is any signs of moisture, and you're going to turn those once a day, and everything should flow smoothly, so you don't have any stuck pieces together. Same thing with the green beans here. I mean, they flow smoothly, and there's no sign of moisture in any of these. So that's what you do with any of your food that you take out of the dehydrator, is condition it for 4 to 7 days. I can't emphasize that enough. When you're done with that, you're going to store your vegetables. How do you store them? Again, a moisture-proof container. I don't advise Tupperware or lunch bags or something like that unless you're storing them for maybe a camping trip for a few days or something like that, because they're not really moisture-proof. Moisture will get in there over time. Your best bet is glass jars. Save your glass jars from any of the food that you have, or Mylar bags work really well also. If you're saving jars like from jam or jelly or spaghetti, if you look inside the cover, oftentimes you'll see a little rubber, not really a gasket, but a little rubber seal or circle around there. Those are the best kind of jars to use, because you're getting a tight seal on those. And then store them away from the sun in a cooler, darker place. Now, does it have to be dark, dark? No. But basically, you want to store your food out of the sunlight, because that over time will degrade the quality of your food as well as the vitamins and the minerals, which you will lose some of those as you're dehydrating. If you put them in canning jars and you're going to store for long term, I generally will vacuum seal these. But these will store for 1 to 2 years if properly stored. You can do big quantities. I tend to do quantities that are left over, where we used part of it for a recipe or part of it for dinner, and I don't want to keep taking up room in the freezer. I don't want it to get freezer burn. I'll throw it in the dehydrator. Frequently, if I'm dehydrating something, I'll also check my refrigerator or freezer and say, what else is left over that I can put in there? Fruits or vegetables. Fruits are generally 135 degrees, vegetables 125 degrees. If I had some leftover apples or something, I would just throw them in with the vegetables if I had room. Yes, they're going to take longer, but they still will dehydrate. So, frozen vegetables, great way to start building your pantry. Easy to use because they're economical, they're already blanched, they'll keep great color, and really nice for putting recipes together. So, if you found this helpful, give me a thumbs up, please. Subscribe to the channel. Keep an eye, because I'm going to be having more recipes using dehydrated foods, using canned foods, and using your garden harvest. So in the meantime, happy dehydrating, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching.